For the sunset nearest, 10:56 p.m. Eastern Time, Thursday, November 6th, 2025, are 9:56 p.m. Central Time and 8:56 Mountain Time is the cross quarter that Thursday. Of the 3 different settings for her altarpiece, we have this, and outside, like it's generally best to do these seasonals. We have already gone over the symbols and of the formulas and of the verses that we will use here. Not the original languages that I plan to use. This is her rendition for another altarpiece, and this is part of the setup. In the half-remembered revelries is how it starts on the board. We don't need to repeat that here, but I am going to go over some of the thoughts. Building up has already begun. Through torn shreds, repaired again. I chant, the gray chant. And a poem comes outward into existence. I'm tested, so to speak. I am within myself. The Ga Wath Am repeats again, for there is no other way. Then as such, as I say this, it is, was, and will be, shredded, ripped, torn, many times, yet I stand. Scarred, yet unscathed by the ways of cruelty, I say it is undone. And so the building continued, never torn again. Lost here on earth, found is otherworldly. One is a reflection of the other, but it is the otherworldly that shall remain forever. An especially powerful feeling sings to us, within us, and around us. Listen and hear. Time draws near. It is outside, as it always has been. It's ours, not outside. And but then, a special formation, which is, was, and has been, creating, and it fully realized, of which no human doings could break it. Strength within, endurance is found again. What was tarnished now shines ready. And there is a reference to Barzoom. And wasn't the deal with Barzoom is that their church, burning pitcher, they were arrested for doing that, but they weren't convicted because it couldn't, there couldn't be conviction for it. So whether they did it or not, or they just got the pictures on their album. And one of the things about seasonals and putting together altars and other ways of grimoires is it reflects experience. It's about continuing. It's about building up a condition, a symbol, something defined. As I'm recording this program, there's this stuff in the pre-dawn sky we have the northeast and the northwest comet. That's not exactly the directions, but it was very special and unique in that sense. Our choices of music and other things can either aid or hinder transitions. And there are effects that linger. Just like the whole thing with seasonals, is that it's not like temperature and the light you see, the radiation, however you're going to phrase all that stuff. It's not like it's, here's the point, and then there's never again. Certainly, I endured over 2 months of days that did not get below 70, even at dawn. But there was a couple aberrations in the middle of that, and it didn't wait till September 21st to get below 70 degrees at night. And this, of course, as you may know, is my Samhain spot. It may have originally been pronounced Samhain, related to the whole gathering of the whole thing. Summer down. So some of the spellings could have been the original pronunciations in some language, are linked to it. We need to consider the signs in nature and how they may go back and forth. And as far as some words that we can look at, Elkzi is a cure or a healing or sulfur. Evesum is distinguish or separate. So we have sort of a salt thing going on. Zimaz is fall. Honestly, I'm of the more Celtic opinion. And Turkish people tell me the same too, as the cross quarters started the seasons for them. But for some reason we changed it more recently. And this, of course, starts winter, but Vug is to add, union or together. Ease is negative. Zipvum is time. Real Chivich is head. There are general terms for the general areas for the parts of the body. And I've met new animals in the process. Most recently, as recording this, the 18th turtle that I've seen here. And we're about to come to the season of fear. And loss more than anything else. So it's important to consider that and what may happen. There's always been talk about a long, cold winter, right? And otherworldly phenomenon is how she summarizes. And positions being held. Like beings holding you in your practice. And particularly the times. The space-time not only allows in, but allows escape too. And the pieces of the puzzle come together. Comfort. Oh, that refers to, the animal. So in a way, we're all in a race. I'm summing up something here. Or a ladder. But it's our own ladder. It's our own personal best. some things we're capable of and others aren't. I'm throwing in my comment to that. And she sees a relative total chaos in 2028, has been saying that for a while. So some things between there and that. And sometimes you're delayed in composing things because you have communions to take part in. And maybe something's going to come in through that. So it's important to consider what's going to survive from what is recalled. And I would certainly agree that there are things. We must strive for something better. Absolutely. I see why they call things madness. It is not madness, is it? I slept and dreamt, and confirmations came, and other things with clearing detail. And there's more to the poem. The owl flies by night, going backwards into the gray mists. I find my home, which was heard as she chanted the seasonal chant. So it's, we're not just doing art here. We're imbibing the things with the spiritual practices that one does. And if you notice the details of other grimoires, it's a process. And the preparation is part of the ritual. A dream vision can be awake, or what they call asleep. A fine line only separates, it does not separate a dream and a vision. There are different types of reality. A lot of people are like, oh, you can't, I've recently saw a video about a group that I do research. And it was the subject of my last stream, probably, when you see this video. And perhaps the spiritual message comes from the looks of it. But anyways, you have different types of reality. And those types of reality are types of reality. But like, for example, you can't, Now, as far as this place, I've tried to keep some shells and stuff separate. Whenever I've drug bones from the forest out here, because this is my place to put bones that I find in the forest. I verify they're not human first, by the way. And I went to college for that sort of stuff too, so it's I don't need anybody else to do that for me. But the bones disappear for here, and that's not why the altar was messed with. But there was a bear that moved a couple of those rocks, so it may be in a slightly different position than it used to be. Certain offerings are vital in a necromantic sense, but that doesn't mean you have to, when doing rituals regarding the dead, that you're actually, worshiping the dead, much less grave robbing. So it's, not quite the same thing. Of course, people definitely choose to. And she prepared 2 cardboard pieces to write on, such as we have seen. And her process was that she called for, before sleep. So she'll wait for it and write down as far as what her experience is. I recommend not sleeping too far from stuff to write things down. Oh, and she asks the question, how many candles? I think I'll be using 13 candles. They're not all the same orange ones. And you don't have to use orange, but orange is the color I consider for the seasonals. The cross quarter of November, orange. The solstice of December, black. The cross quarter of February, purple. The equinox of March, green. The cross quarter of May, yellow. The solstice of June, white. The cross quarter of August, red. And the equinox of September would be blue. And one thing she said, isn't it awesome how we can find so much in nature? I think things find us. And if it's something we need for our rituals or for our spiritual duties in life, we find it. Now, people say, yes, people starve to death and stuff, but what we need. And part of the things of making these things is it's like a face. Listen and hear, the time draws near, but it shall be ours. You notice at the end, I changed that a little bit and decided, okay, yeah, that was the line missing from the end of that. It has always been, is, and will be. Societal systems break down what should be together. They have intricately planned the breakdown of families, of nature, of tribes, of all people. Well, think of it like the Tower card, right? And she says that it may very well be my favorite of your seasonals. It's powerful and moving. This one especially sings to me. And part of it, like I probably am going to say in regards to my stream, is that our beliefs, our practice, and our experience is so much more of the path than what the path is handed to us as, even if that's perfect. And she said that she took a glance, I told it forth, the symbols, and they told a story, and she was beginning to work on it and the notes. That may take a bit, and because of some of the issues related to the practice, to the fact that I'm reading some of this stuff off, this has been a bit more disorganized than going straight through the details in one conversation and interrupting for comment and conversation. And the items, particularly the oracular items, they are something that come alive by the creation of thought forms, by certain entities that may be presenced regarding them. And automatic stuff related to meaning is and along the way you may get chants and symbols that have nothing to do with the particular grimoire you're working on. That doesn't mean they're like necessarily distractions. You can use that. And Quimbanda, voodoo, that sort of thing, has it relates to a lot of that. To cry out, to call, and to exclaim was what she thought related to the term Elkse. Because dealing with the cat, I lost my place, so if I've repeated that or anything here. And this does have a Celtic, a Norse sort of feeling, a feeling of the doorways. Remember, the Celts talked about doorways and windows regarded to the seasonal points. The relation to the mighty dead, that's part of it, but not quite as much of a part of it as the stereotype. A lot of what we hear about Samhain relates to the Christian holiday of Halloween. There's ascent and descent. She notices after the seasonals performed, there's a lot of spiritual activity in the days after. And it's important that when you do ask, there is some asking for, others. And that you maintain an inner and outer sort of cosmological sort of sense. And don't quite, you don't rely on the mundane systems, you use them. Light is much worse if honesty says for one picks and chooses their own end within sight. Symbols come alive, and there are creatures. And we may be approaching a big turning point. Well, there's always a big turning point, but for who and of what sort, right? And that is it with the comments.